Good day, everyone. Thank you for joining me today as we embark on the next chapter of an exciting journey together. Welcome to Beyond the Caribbean Cruise Destinations, a presentation series inspired by my own travels. As someone who's explored these vibrant and diverse regions firsthand, I want to take you beyond the traditional cruise itineraries. Together, we'll uncover the hidden gems, immerse ourselves in local cultures, and discover unique experiences that go far beyond the surface. Whether you're a seasoned traveler or just starting to dream about your next getaway, I hope to inspire you to see beyond the Caribbean in a whole new light. So when it comes to exploring the world, there are plenty of cruise lines that can take you to its well-known ports, but each offers a unique experience. From luxury sailings to adventure-packed journeys, there's something for every type of traveler. So the cruise lines that you're used to seeing for the Caribbean, they all travel the world as well. So we have major cruise lines like Royal Caribbean, Carnival, MSC, Disney. Norwegian are popular choices for those looking for fun-filled vacations and plenty of onboard entertainment, family-friendly activities, and lively atmospheres. Yes, Disney does sail all around the world, because that's the most common question that I get. For those looking for maybe perhaps a little bit more elevated experience, we have Celebrity, Holland America, Virgin Voyages, which is an adult-only cruise line, so no kids ever, and Princess offer a premium approach with dining, elegant ships, curated shore excursions that focus more on cultural immersion and relaxation. They often visit a mix of mainstream ports and lesser-known gems, providing a balanced experience. But if small ships and off-the-beaten-path adventures are more your style, we have cruise lines like Oceania, Scenic, Ponant, and more that specialize in intimate boutique-style sailings or expedition sailings. These ships can access smaller, less crowded ports, giving travelers a chance to experience the world in a more authentic way. And for the ultimate in luxury, we have Azamara, Silversea, Seabourn, and more that redefine cruising with all-inclusive elegance, personalized service, and exotic itineraries that include hidden harbors and secluded beaches, again, that you won't necessarily be able to reach with a larger cruise line. Smaller ships can go to different places, so even if you've been beyond the Caribbean on some of the larger cruise ship lines, you may want to further explore with some of the smaller cruise ships that can get you into different ports than you've perhaps visited before. Viking Ocean is also listed here. Viking, of course, is more well known for their river cruises, which we aren't going to talk about in this series right now. But they do have an ocean-going regular cruise line series of ships as well, so they do sail the ocean, just like the rest of the cruise lines listed here. So regardless of the cruise line you choose, each one offers a different perspective on the world that you're going to visit. So I do often get asked, can I explore on my own or should I do a shore excursion at whatever port it is they're asking about? The answer truly is it depends. So here's a few key factors to consider when deciding whether you want to venture out independently or book some sort of organized tour. First one, of course, is personal preference and your comfort level. Do you enjoy navigating new places on your own? Can you read a map, or are you good with directions to wander away and then wander back and get yourself back to the ship? Or do you perhaps prefer the ease of a guided experience where you don't have to worry about navigation? Same thing with walking or driving. Some destinations are more pedestrian friendly, while others will require transportation to reach the key attractions. So sometimes the key attractions that you're looking for are perhaps not in walking distance. And perhaps it's easier to take a guided tour than to figure out how to get yourself to and from that particular attraction that you're trying to visit. Do you like history and stories? If you love the in-depth historical insights, guided excursions definitely worth it. You will get a local guide who will be able to give you the history, and you can ask live questions too, and get the answers right there with that local tour guide. If you prefer to explore at your own pace, self-guided tours could be a great option. And, it comes down to how structured or self-guided you want to be, and that may change depending on what port you're visiting. So do you like the set schedule, or do you want the flexibility to wander around and discover things on your own? Sometimes you can still start with a structured tour, and there may be some free time afterwards, and especially if it's a walking tour, you might be able to just tell the guide, thank you, I will get myself back to the ship, always let them know, and you can go further explore yourself. So I'm going to recommend general recommendations for each port. Not every port, because there's a lot, but there there will be the main ports that most cruise lines would stop at. And I'm going to, recommend whether you can explore on your own or if perhaps you really should do a shore excursion. And for each one of those ports that I do talk about, I've listed the top 3 attractions. Not all of those can be explored on your own. So some of those could be the main attraction may not be within walking distance. You may have to travel for an hour or more or less to get to that attraction. So again, you have to figure out what it is you're interested in and do your own research. Only you know what kinds of activities and attractions match your interests and travel styles. So my goal is to give you the insights and inspiration to make the most of your time in each destination. So once you narrow it down and you still have questions, well, then I can help because I have been to almost all of these cities and destinations that we're going to talk about in this series. And one final thing about shore excursions. And even if you're not going to do an actual shore excursion with a guided tour or anything through a tour guide, always be cognizant of getting yourself back to the ship before the time that they tell you you have to return to the ship. Every day there will be a time that will be posted, and you will get documentation every day, whether it's on the app or paper file, that tells you you must be back on ship by. And that may be the local time, it may be ship time, so make sure you always know what that time is, and if it's different than the local time, make sure you do the conversion so you know what time you need to be back to the ship. The ship can leave without you. So always be cognizant of getting back in time. If you do decide to book a shore excursion, there are a couple of ways that will guarantee that you get back to your ship. So if something happens, maybe there's a shutdown on the highway or the railway or whatever transportation that you are using through your tour that you've booked, and they cannot physically get you back to the ship on time. They will be, of course, in contact with the ship, and your tour company, if you book either with the cruise line or with Expedia Shore Excursions group, you have to use the link that I provide to you, or you go through my Expedia page. Because if you book just on expedia.com or .ca, you don't get that return to ship guarantee. It's only with the cruise line itself or the Expedia Shore Excursions group. So if they can't get you back, they are still responsible to get you to the next port of call, okay? So they are guaranteeing you always get back to your ship, okay? And the Expedia Shore Excursions group work very closely with the cruise line to make sure that they're partnering with the right times and everything to get you back to the ship on time. So today's topic on the Beyond the Caribbean cruise destinations is the Mediterranean. And the Mediterranean is huge. It's really bigger than one thinks. And as you can see, there's 14 countries listed here in the Mediterranean. These are not necessarily all of the countries you could potentially visit with a cruise line, but they are the most frequently visited countries that the Mediterranean has. For this presentation, I'm going to focus on just those first few that are really key that most people are going to go to, okay? But just so that you have a broader understanding of all of the different places that you could visit, I have these 14 highlighted here. So we're going to look at Croatia first, and Dubrovnik is the one of the main ports that you go there. You do dock away from the old Dubrovnik walls. There is usually a shuttle service offered by the cruise line. Takes about 10 minutes to get yourself into town with that. So with that shuttle, you can certainly explore on your own once you get into Dubrovnik itself. It's well known for the city walls and the fortresses. If you are a big Game of Thrones fan, you can explore Westeros because a lot of what was Westeros in the series was filmed here in Dubrovnik. And if you are a beach lover, you can do Banje Beach, but that would probably be a excursion that you want to do because that, of course, is not directly in Dubrovnik. The other main port of call for Croatia is Split. You do dock right in the center of Split, so again, you can certainly explore on your own if you wish. Again, these are just recommendations. It depends on what you're comfortable with of what you want to do. So you can go to their main palace, the Cathedral of St. Dominus, or you can go to the town of Trogir, which is a main attraction as well. Again, you would need a shore excursion probably for that because it's not right in Split. And just fun fact as we go through these presentations, if I have visited the port directly, these photos are my own photos from my visits to these ports. So Marseille is one of the most frequented ports in France that's bordering the Mediterranean. There are other ports of call for France outside the Mediterranean, but we'll stick within the Mediterranean. The terminals are further away from Marseille itself, so it's a bit too far to walk. There is a free shuttle to the city every 20 minutes. Now, these things can change. They may start charging small fees for these shuttles, but right now, as far as I know, it is still a free shuttle, but note that it can change. I do recommend shore excursions here because that shuttle, if you can do the shuttle, that's fine, but it might be easier to do a shore excursion to get you back and forth to the main city. So the Basilica Notre Dame de la Garde, the Old Port in La Penière, and St. Victor Abbey are the main attractions in Marseille. Again, not all of these attractions may be right in the city that we're speaking about or the port that we're talking about, so you still have to do your own research to see what of these three, if any, maybe there's other things that I don't even list that you're more interested in. So Athens, you are actually docking the port of Parisius. So anytime you see a bracket after a city name. That means the name in the bracket is where you're docking. So the port is the gateway to Athens, and it's about 20 minutes to Athens by vehicle. So we were just here recently in the fall of 2024. We went to see the Acropolis, which is pictured here, and there's the Acropolis Museum as well. Ancient Agora is a little further away, and the neighborhood of Plaka is basically at the base of the Acropolis on one side. So the Acropolis is a bit up on a hill. Um, it's hard to get out of Parisius to Athens, truly. So it might be better to take a shore excursion because it is 20 minutes to Athens by vehicle from the port. There's not much in the port at all. If you are going to the Acropolis, they now have timed tickets, so you can't just walk up and try to go into the Acropolis. You have to pre-purchase tickets. So, and again, they're timed. You book a ticket for 9:30, you've got to be there by 9:30 or 9:45. After that, they won't let you in because it's a timed ticket. So for that reason, I do strongly recommend shore excursions for Athens. Corfu, if you visit Corfu, you're going to dock at the new port, and it's a 30-minute walk to the old town. So again, if you feel up to it and that works for you, you can certainly do that walk. You can explore on your own, but recommend the transportation to and from Old Town. There will be cabs and such outside the port that will take you uh, into the Old Town, or you can book an excursion instead. So really the Old Town itself as a whole is a main attraction. Then there's a palace and a beach. That's a well-known beach in Corfu. A lot of people do go to Corfu for that beach. Okay, so if that's something you're interested in, you probably want to do an excursion for the beach day. Mykonos, there's two options. You could dock at the new port, which is a 30-minute walk with no sidewalks, but they do have shuttle buses and a water bus. You have to pay for those. I think it was €4. We were tendered, so we didn't dock at that dock. And tendering means you are taking smaller boats from your ship to shore. Okay, so it takes a lot of time because you can only fit so many people on these little boats. Little boats, there's probably over 150 people on a boat, but still, you've got perhaps a lot of shuttles that have to go back and forth as tenders. Once you get into Mykonos itself, into the old town, sorry about that. Uh, So once you get into Old Town, the windmills are one of the main attractions. It's up a little tiny slope, but not very big at all, but easily walkable in Old Town Mykonos, just to wander around these small whitewashed little. You can't call them roads. They're because there's some of them do have cars, little tiny cars that go through them, but these are just pathways for the most part. And this was from our recent trip. And Little Venice is basically a bunch of restaurants and such that are right along the water, very similar to how Venice is set up. So if you want to kind of have a little taste of Venice, you can in Mykonos, Greece. Olympia, Kataklon, of course, is where you dock because it's in brackets. It's the gateway there. It is 30 minutes from port. We did do a shore excursion because there's a little strip of a few shops and such there in the port, but there's really not much there. You can take a train or shuttles back and forth to Olympia on your own. We chose it's easier to book the excursion and let them take care of all that for us. So we went to the archaeological site of Olympia, which is the site of where the first Olympics were held. We went to the Archaeological Museum and the Market of Ancient Olympia. So it was all quite fascinating and really enjoyed that particular port. Sorry, those are emails coming in, so I can't stop those. So here we go. Is Santorini is one of the most famous places in Greece that people want to visit. You are tendered or not docked ever at this particular port. Um, and Santorini is an old volcano cauldron, so it is up. All of the things that you want to see and do in Santorini are at the top of this cliff, basically, at the top of the island. Where they take you to the tender area at the port is 588 steps to the top along a donkey trail, or you can take the gondola. Just for ease of logistics, we book the shore excursion because tendering, can take a long time, as we discussed earlier. And there's only a couple of ways to get to the top. It's the steps or the gondola. So you'd have to wait in line. So you're waiting in line for the tender, you're waiting in line for the gondola. If you book a shore excursion with the cruise line, which is what I more so tend to recommend for Santorini, is they will take care of the tendering. So you just show up at your meeting point time, then you'll be taken to your exclusive tender, and then they will take you on the tour of whatever. However, all tours lead back to the town of Fira, which is at the top of where the port and the tenders are. You will still have to get down from the top of Santorini, so you'll either have to walk those steps that have donkeys traveling on them, or you have to wait in line for the gondola. That line for the gondola can be very long, so just be aware of that and pace yourself and time yourself accordingly. We got back fairly early to the line to take the gondola down, and it took us about 40 minutes in line. Okay, so bear all of this in mind. Better to be forewarned than to have figure this out at the wrong time, shall we say. So again, shore excursions are probably the way to go with the cruise line, not even necessarily with the Expedia shore excursions. Again, depends on your comfort level and what it is you're trying to do. The town of Ia, which is that OIA, it's pronounced Ia, is where those famous blue domes are. This is the church picture that I took there while we were there. Town of Fira is the one right on the top of where the steps and the gondola are. So that's your point of up and down. And there's some archaeological sites. There are other towns that you can visit as well in Santorini. There's a lot of history in Santorini. So just this one's a little bit more tricky, but certainly doable. We had a fine time there in Santorini that day. So we're going to move on to Italy now. So Florence and Pisa, you dock at Livorno, and it's the gateway to those two cities, and those two cities are within the region of Tuscany. So Tuscany is not a city, it's just the region in Italy. Pisa is about 40 minutes from Livorno. Florence is about almost an hour and a half away from Livorno, two different directions, okay? So you're not necessarily getting to Florence and Pisa in the same day. Prioritize which one you want to see. I do recommend shore excursions. Livorno, truthfully, the first time we were in Livorno, we did have time after our excursion to Florence, and we did walk around Livorno. There is not much there, okay? So you don't want to necessarily spend your day in Livorno. The truth of the matter is you are looking to go to Florence or Pisa. That is why this port exists. It's a working port, so there's also a shuttle that has to take you back and forth through the port even to get to the town of Livorno, so bear that in mind as well. If you're going to Florence, Florence Cathedral and Michelangelo's David. Those are the main two attractions in Florence. And of course, here's my photo of the Leaning Tower of Pisa from our recent trip. And yes, it is really leaning that much. You can walk to the top. You can kind of see that there's a few people in there. There's hundreds of steps. We did not do that. But we did take the shore excursion the first time we went to Florence. This time when we went to Livorno, we went to Pisa instead because we had been to Florence. Naples is another popular stop. It's the gateway to Pompeii or the Amalfi Coast. So you do dock right in the center of Naples. So you can walk right off and explore Naples on your own. The first time we were in Naples, it wasn't a scheduled stop for us. It was an alternate stop because we couldn't go to our originally scheduled port. So we just did a hop on, hop off in Naples and explored a little bit on our own. Easy peasy, walk right off. I think it was 2-minute walk, and you got the hop on, hop off bus. If you want to go to Pompeii, you really do need to do a shore excursion because, again, those are timed tickets to get into Pompeii now. So you really need that excursion. Doesn't have to be with the cruise line. Again, you know, just make sure you get yourself back to the ship. The Amalfi Coast is further away. It is a very tight road, windy road, and it does have a lot of traffic, so that does take up a lot of time. If you do want to do Amalfi Coast, I strongly recommend booking a shore excursion, not doing anything on your own, because that is the one that could really potentially get you in trouble to getting back to the ship on time. So top 3 attractions is Pompeii. Herculaneum is the same thing as Pompeii, it's just a different town that was affected by the Mount Vesuvius eruption. There's less people in Herculaneum, but you still got to take a shore excursion to get yourself there because it's not directly in Naples, it's about an hour away. Pompeii is about that same too. Naples Historic Center is a UNESCO World Heritage Site, so again, lots to see and do. And again, the Amalfi Coast as well is the attraction for Naples. So Rome is inland by an hour and a half, generally speaking, with traffic, and you are docking in Civitavecchia. And also, if this is your embarkation or disembarkation port, note that the airport's about 40 minutes away from Rome, and again, you're about an hour, hour and a half away from the port to the airport, so you have to take that into consideration if you are flying back out of this port. I highly recommend shore excursions for this port because you are so far away, and just being able to get the transportation back and forth and guarantee that you get back to the ship if it's just a 1-day stop for you and you're not getting on or off ship. Here, the first time we were in Rome or Civitavecchia, it was just a 1-day port stop like everything else. This time when we went, we were getting on and off the ship in Rome, so it was a little different. Top 3 attractions, of course, in Rome is the Vatican, which is St. Peter's Basilica, the Vatican Museums, which is where the Sistine Chapel is. This is not the Sistine Chapel because you're not allowed to take a picture in Sistine Chapel, but this is one of the other museums, and you can just see very similar to, this is the maps room, because those are tapestry maps on the walls, but the ceiling is all done in painted al fresco, just like the Sistine Chapel. Time tickets to get into the Sistine Chapel and the museum, St. Peter's, you just line up and you can get in without a time ticket, but you do have to pay. Colosseum and Roman Forum are also timed tickets. So again, also why, if this is just a 1-day stop for you, you really want to do a shore excursion. The first time we did a shore excursion, we saw the Vatican. We did not see the museums or Sistine Chapel. There's just not enough time to do it all. So we did the Vatican, the Colosseum, and we had a little bit of free time where we went to the Trevi Fountain, saw the Pantheon, and had a little bit of free time to explore in Rome on our own. But those are the kinds of things that you can see there in Rome. Sicily is an island. It's the football at the end of the boot, shall we say, in Italy, and there's various ports that you could be visiting: Palmero, Trapani, Catania, Messina. First time we were there, we went to Trapani. Second time, this time, we were supposed to go to Messina, but we ended up at Catania because Mount Etna was erupting at the time, so they wanted to keep the cruise ships further away for safety purposes. But for the most part, You can get off in all of these ports and explore that particular port and city on your own fairly easily. There are multiple wine tours that you can do there. We did do a wine tour in Trapani when we were there the first time. It was quite lovely. And the main attractions are Mount Etna, so you would have to get an excursion to go there. The ancient town of Tamaria, which is usually a Catania or Messina option, but that is quite popular as well, and you would need an excursion for that. And there's all kinds of wineries and canola pastries. Canola is the kind of the dessert that Sicily is well known for. You can just find the wineries and cannoli pastries in the ports. And again, there are wineries outside of those particular ports as well. And we can't talk about Italy without talking about Venice. Now, the ports are two different ones. It's either Trieste or Ravenna. None of the large cruise ships dock in Venice directly anymore. And both of these ports are about 2 hours from Venice. So if this is a stop, Venice is usually a get on, get off kind of port, but sometimes it's just the 1 day stop. If it's just the 1 day stop, I really strongly recommend shore excursions because it's 2 hours each direction to get from the port to Venice. So you really, really want to make sure that you have that guarantee that you're getting back to the ship on time. But like I said, Venice could be the port that you're getting off the ship or starting your cruise with. So you might have more time in Venice and then pre or post cruise, and you just have to worry about getting yourself to the port before you embark on your cruise. But there's all kinds of lovely things to do in Venice. Of course, the Grand Canal and the Rialto Bridge you see there, that's from our last night there in Venice from our recent trip. First time the Rialto bridge there that you see was under construction. So this is the first time I've seen it without the tarps all hanging over it. So it was quite lovely. St. Mark's Square has the Basilica and Doge's Palace, which are quite popular as well, but you can go to St. Mark's Square and not go into the Basilica and just still have a lovely time around there. You can also visit the islands of Murano and Burano, which are known for their blown glass and their lace. So each island has a specialty, shall we say. You can still find some glass blowing in Venice, but basically years ago, the government thought that it was too risky to have all of these people with hot molten lava glass blowing facilities in the city of Venice, so they kind of moved them off to the other islands. So it's a quite different experience. It's quite lovely, and we just did as well. Malta is one of my favorite places to visit. It's number 2 right after Prague. Prague you cannot visit on a cruise, not an ocean cruise anyways. But with Valletta, you're docking right in the center of the city. This is from the opposite side of where you would be docking. So this photo I took from the top deck of the cruise ship, because we were actually, our balcony was facing the other side of the harbor. You can certainly explore the city of Valletta on your own. If you want to go outside of this port to the rest of Malta, you really should do a shore excursion, or you can do the hop on, hop off bus. Just be careful with hop on, hop off buses because sometimes you hop off and it may be a struggle to hop back on if they're busy or if their schedule's a little off or what have you. So just be mindful of that. The first time we were there, we did do a little bit of Valletta on our own, but we did do the hop on, hop off because it was over 40 degrees there when we were there the first time. This last time, we explored Valletta on our own. So the old town itself, the whole thing's a UNESCO site. So much to see and do there. Medina and Rabat are outside of the city, and you would need an excursion or the hop on, hop offs go there. And Golden Bay Beach is one of the main beaches that a lot of people do want to go to when they're visiting Malta. So you'd need an excursion for that. Moving on to Portugal. We are sailing to Portugal this year, so I'm very excited to get my own photos from Lisbon. And you're going to sail up the Tagus River, and there's 4 cruise terminals, and they're not near the city center. So I'm going to usually recommend that you're going to do a shore excursion. However, if there's shuttles and things like that, you can certainly explore on your own. But note, Lisbon is very, very hilly for walking. So if you're not real great with the walking, like I'm not, you may want to do the shore excursions. Okay. The monastery is very popular. Those antique trolley cars there we see in the picture. And Belem Tower and St. George's Castle are also very popular, but it's a wonderful city to wander about. Lots of food and wine that I've been reading about as well, so quite excited to go there this fall. And we'll also be traveling to Porto. So Porto is again a bit inland, so you're docking about 20 minutes from Porto, and that's by car. So we're doing a shore excursion because again, that's a bit too far to kind of sort out on our own. So the easiest thing is to do the shore excursion. Porto is very famous for the Dom Luis I bridge. If you see it in the background here behind this port wine, Porto is the birthplace of port wine. So there are lots of port cellars for a tasting within Porto, but you can still go outside of Porto for other wine tastings at the actual vineyards as well. So, if you want that experience, that's great as well. There's cable cars, and you can also do a short little river cruise here along the river that you can do that day as well. So, again, very excited to go here as well. Barcelona is pretty up there on my favorite places to go in Spain. This is the La Sagrada Familia, which is was started by Gaudi. He has not, he didn't finish it. It is still a work in progress after many, many, many decades. But it's getting closer to completion. You can still see some in this picture here that's still not done. La Rambla is also a popular area in Barcelona, and Montserrat is a monastery outside of Barcelona, quite popular as well, but you probably need a shore excursion for that. But the terminals are moved, and they are about 25 minutes away by car. The first time we were in Barcelona, we were docked right down in Barcelona, basically right at the end of La Rambla. Now it's 25 minutes away from car, so you're gonna need transportation to and from the city center. You can get cabs. There's probably shuttle buses as well. Once you get to Barcelona, you can certainly explore on your own. But again, because it's 25 minutes away by car or vehicle, you may want to think about doing a shore excursion instead, especially if you're trying to go to La Sagrada Familia, because those are time tickets now as well. Palma de Majorca is a small island off of the coast of Spain in the Mediterranean. We've been here twice. We're going back again now in the fall. The terminal's about 15 minutes away by car, so that's probably 45 minutes or so walking distance. I don't recall it being that far away, so I think the port's actually moved since we were there in 2012. But we are going to explore on our own again, so we are going to just hail a cab and bring us into more of the center of Palma and explore on our own. This is a picture of the Santa Maria Cathedral, the royal palaces along the side, and they've got gardens there as well. Very lovely. It's right along the water. You can't really see that it is from this angle. The Arab Baths and Plaza Mayor were lovely. It's very richly steeped in history, with Arab and Roman architecture and influence and history around here. And first time we were in Palma, we did a winery tour that was outside of the city, and it was in a town where Michael Douglas used to have a house with Catherine Zeta-Jones. and beautiful, beautiful countryside. So if you're into winery tours, you'll need a shore excursion for that, most likely. So um, something to consider for sure with Palma. In Seville, Seville is inland, so you dock in Cadiz. So we did a tour excursion in Cadiz. We did not go to Seville. It's about an hour and a half away, one way. So that's 3 hours round trip, plus your time in Seville. So we found a shore excursion that we liked in Cadiz, which was this. It's flamenco show. So it was amazing. My husband was so enamored by it all that when we go back to Cadiz again, we're still not going to Seville. We've got a flamenco show booked again. So it's just so amazing. There's the Seville Cathedral and the Royal Alcazar there. And there's a plaza that's the main square that had a lot of shops and things. It was really, really pretty. So we're okay with going back. So we're going to explore on our own in the morning, and then we will do the flamingo show in the afternoon when we're docked in Cadiz. But again, if you want to go to Seville, definitely a shore excursion because it's so far away. Valencia, the terminals are about 15 minutes away by car. Um, Once you get yourself into Valencia, you can certainly explore on your own. But again, if you don't want to figure out how to do that, or if there's no shuttles or whatever, you may want to book a shore excursion. Uh, the Central Market is quite unique, so which is the Plaza de Mercado in Spanish. The cathedral and another plaza there. And this is the Torres de Serranos right here. It's just a fortress kind of castle thing that's kind of popular in Valencia. But, you know, once you get in there, off away from the terminals, you can certainly explore on your own. Turkey is a quite popular port, and Kudasi is one of the most popular ports that they have for Turkey. The port is right downtown, so you can walk off the ship and explore on your own, no problem. But again, it's really truly a gateway to get to these other attractions, which are outside of Kudasi. So you do want to really do a shore excursion if you're going there. So the ancient ruins of Ephesus is the main reason Kudasi is on the map for cruising. This is the main attraction. But we do have Kudasi Castle on Pigeon Island, and Ladies Beach is quite popular as well. So if you're a beach person, there is a beach close by, but again, you'll need the shore excursion to do the day trip for there. And that is a longer, because this is the longest of the presentations from this series of Beyond the Caribbean destinations, because there's a lot in the Mediterranean. Like I said, I didn't even go through all of the countries that you can visit in the Mediterranean. So I hope this gives you a good idea of what's available and what you can see and do in the Mediterranean. Of course, more information about the Expedia Shore Excursions group here. You can just search me for my Expedia Cruises website, and you can see the shore excursion link here, but this is the direct link. And of course, if you have any questions about any destination, whether it be the Mediterranean that we're talking about here now or anywhere else in the world, this is how you reach out to find me. And I will certainly have a great discussion with you about what it is you're looking for in your next vacation. And finishing off with a picture of Venice, we did do the gondola ride. Highly recommend that you try a gondola ride at least once when you're in Venice, because it is a unique experience that you cannot replicate anywhere else.